Welcome to Burnt Out. The Burnt Out podcast shares the stories of firefighters, emergency personnel, and other first responders around the world to create a pathway to save lives. The stories you will hear are real and may be disturbing to some listeners. Listener discretion is advised. And now I'd like to introduce you to your hosts for Burnt Out, Skip O and Jeff the Old Guy.
Sean, thank you for that introduction. We'd like to welcome everybody to Burnout Podcast. And we'd like to welcome our co-host, Jeff, the Old Guy.
Hey.
Jeff, glad you're on here.
Hey, that's me. What's up, Skip? How you doing? Doing good? Looking good? You can't see me, though.
I know it's a little early for you.
But yeah, it's early, but that's all right. It'll be late later on. But before we get too far in this, I want to remind everybody to go to www.burnoutpodcast.org and check out our sponsors that keep this podcast alive.
Well, Jeff, thank you very much. I appreciate you remembering our sponsors because I'm old too and I forget sometimes.
I almost forgot. I haven't forgot a sponsor, but I forget everything. What's your name?
Well, also, let's not forget about our guests. We got Maria Reyes on here. And Maria, thank you for coming on the show. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Hi, Maria.
I got introduced from Maria from Leah. And Leah was telling me her story. And I said, we got to have her on the show. So, Maria, could you give people a little brief description about your background and where you're at today?
Yeah. So I'm married and I have 3 boys that are ages 23, 19, and 17. I've been a firefighter for 21 years. I've been a paramedic for 13 years. I also recently got my RN about 5 years ago. I'm crisis intervention trained. I'm a peer support member for my fire department. I'm also part of our mobile integrated health team which connects with people from 911 calls that need mental health services. And I also am a coordinator for a Bible study with adults with disabilities. I love hanging out with my family, camping. I have a couple dogs, 3 cats, and I just love being outdoors.
When do you sleep?
When I can, and I always take a safety nap at work if I have the chance to.
Safety naps. Imperative.
Well, I like that. That's good. That's good stuff. Well, Maria, what inspired you from when you was young to do the things that you're doing today? Was there any particular thing that inspired you to go into those professions and those missions?
Let's see. I come from a family of servants. My father was a police officer. My mother is a retired RN. You know, when I was in high school, I was a lifeguard. And after I had my oldest son, I was looking for a part-time job with benefits. So my mom was suggested I, maybe apply at the hospital. So I got a job in the ER as a unit secretary. And from there, I just became super interested in emergency medicine. And so I got my EMT, became a technician. And then from there, I was like, you know what, I'm going to go for the fire department.
And how long did you say you was on the fire department?
I've been on for 21 years. I plan on retiring next summer and going into nursing.
Wow. I tell you, it's amazing how sometimes this runs in our family. My 2 brothers were police officers. My cousins were firefighters. My brother-in-law was a firefighter, and uncles, grandpa, just a lot of different things that runs in our blood. And we kind of drift to that way. Like doing the job, and have you ever experienced PTSD, stress, or in yourself or in any other body that you know?
Well, I've never been diagnosed with PTSD, but I have suffered from bouts of anxiety, insomnia. I've been depressed a few different times in my life, not anything too severe. I'm pretty aware of how I'm feeling. And I've always been a big proponent of therapy. So when I start feeling like that, I usually, get back into therapy. I like to exercise. Spending time just outside. I have to kind of shut my phone off and just not talk to people for a while. It's kind of how I recharge. I recharge alone. as opposed to in groups of people. And I guess just yoga would be another thing that I like to do.
She talked about calling it back in your cocoon to recharge. I can relate that at 150%. I went through that the past, I don't know, 10, 14 days. I didn't talk to anybody, and Skip was blowing my phone up, and that's just my way. I'll take care of myself. I'll get to the darkest spot and work my way out from there. But yeah, I can relate to that 110%.
I tell you, Maria, with all the stuff that you do, when you get in, what I found out for myself, when you get involved into not only our jobs, then you go into the peer support. Not only you have your own stuff you're working with, then you are taking on other people's stuff at times. And then that's when you recharge. It was suggested to me by a therapist, shut your phone off, Skip, and go out in the woods and walk around for an hour. You need to get away, because when our cup's full and it's running over, I need to do something about it. It sounds like you're in a good space, Maria, doing what you need to do. But I think there's one situation in your life that hit home that you wasn't sure how to handle.
Uh-huh.
Do you want to let everybody know a little bit about that situation and tell that story, if you're okay with doing that?
Absolutely. So even with all of my training, I was not prepared for my best friend when she started suffering from alcoholism. So there was a period of about 6 years after she went through a divorce that she started drinking. And I saw the signs early on. Every time we got together, she was like, "Do you want some wine?" Or she was already, a bit buzzed when I went to hang out with her. And it just was abnormal for her. We've been lifelong friends. We're only a month apart in age, and our fathers were childhood best friends and then worked on the police department together. So there's literally never been a time in my life that she hasn't been in my life. So she's more like a sister. So I'm very in tune with, her normal day-to-day behavior. And, we've always been very close. So, it turned into this just quickly out of control drinking. And, I'm a fixer. And I think a lot of us in this field are fixers. And so when I see a problem, I'm like, well, I can do this, this, and this, and I'm going to fix the problem. And I couldn't fix her. And so I was just at a loss. And I mean, 6 years of that, it was a long time. So I tried talking to her when she was sober, and told her my concerns. Of course, she denied having a problem. This was just, she was doing this because she was going through a hard time, all the excuses. Eventually, I started doing some of the enabling behaviors of, dumping the alcohol, taking the car keys, cleaning up her messes, turning off ovens. I was constantly worried about her. I can't tell you how many 3 a.m. calls I took, with her just, drunk at 3 a.m. and emotionally unstable. Sometimes I would drive over to her house at that time just to kind of talk her down. You name it, I probably did it at one time.
So you was going over there at 3 a.m. and then some occasions did you have to report to work at 7 o'clock
Oh, yeah.
in the morning, or when you had to report to work?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So you spent a lot of energy on her, and then it was taken away from not only your work life, but maybe your personal life too with your family.
Oh, absolutely. It affected my marriage. My husband didn't understand why I was so involved. He just wanted me to kind of wash my hands of it, because I was a mess. I mean, I was just a mess all the time. I spent an exorbitant amount of energy, mentally and physically I felt like if I loved her enough and was there for her enough, she would stop.
Was your friend a first responder also?
She worked in the emergency room.
So you guys not only are lifelong friends, you can relate in a lot of other in the EMS part of it.
Absolutely.
Toward the last 6 months of your friend getting help, what was that like?
I'm going to be honest with you. I can't remember the exact time frame, but I had an experience with her that was that definitely sent me over the edge to where I needed to get therapy, and I realized, I have to create some boundaries. I was just getting to a point where I wasn't managing my home life and my work life and being able to be there for her. So I mean, I had to make that decision. I had to create boundaries and kind of distance myself from her. And I'd made that decision. And then she was in the process of moving for, I think, the third time. So this would have been the third time that I had helped her move. And she reached out to me and I was like, you know what? I can do this for her. I think this is a good decision. But I had learned that if I didn't text or call her prior to us meeting, that many times I would show up and she would be so intoxicated that, she couldn't function, or, she just wasn't there. So I had agreed to do this, and I did my normal, I called and texted her, and I didn't get a response from her that day. So normally I would just go about my day and not worry about it. But that day I call it a God moment. I had this irresistible urge to drive to her house. I was just like, there was no way that I wasn't going to go to her house. I don't know why. It just happened. So I went to her home. The door was unlocked. I was yelling her name. I couldn't find her. I finally found her, and she was unconscious. She was on her stomach. She wasn't breathing regularly, so I rolled her over, opened her airway, and did a sternum rub on her. She took this huge deep breath. She was still completely, incoherent. So I called 911. And, in that moment, I was, frantically cleaning her up because all I could think was she's going to be transported to her old place of appointment, and all of her coworkers are going to see her like this. And I didn't want to embarrass her, but I also knew she had to go. I mean, I requested ALS and everything. I was like, she's not good. So I felt so helpless because I didn't have any equipment, and seeing her like that was just, it was terrifying. And thank God I went, because she was about 30 minutes from death, according to the ER doctor. And I really thought that after that, that would be her turning point, but it wasn't. I mean, she still wasn't done after that. But thank God that she's sober today, and she's been sober for several years.
That's awesome. I tell you, it's, seeing you get emotional like that, or hearing you get emotional like that, I can, me and Jeff can relate a lot of ways, because we have friends or people we try to help. And, sometimes we don't get those good fairy tale endings like you're experiencing. And I'm just grateful that she had you in her life to love her unconditionally, but also set boundaries too. And it's hard to do sometimes, especially like you said, we're rescuers. We need to fix the problem, and we need to do this. And then I don't know about any of you both, but I'm kind of a control freak. I want people to do what I want them to do. And if they don't, it pisses me off.
Yes, I can relate to that. I'm like, my way is the best way, so just listen to what I'm saying. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
So
I got to tell
Jeff,
you, Maria,
I
worked in
questions
the
for
ER
Maria?
for like 9 years as a level 3 trauma center. And that 9 years in the ER is no joke. And I applaud you and your coworkers for working like that, and being a firefighter too, and being a paramedic on top of that. So yeah, you're catching it all the way through. And do you see a difference when you do patient care as a nurse than you were or the paramedic? Do you feel a different kind of I'm trying to think of a level of not excitement, but a level of dedication there?
I can say just all the different education that I've had has definitely made me a more empathetic, compassionate person when I'm caring for someone, and I don't feel so lost in these types of situations because of my training. And I can say that nursing school helped me do even better, like patient assessments. That's something that you learn in nursing school that is a little bit different than being a paramedic. You kind of have to switch your way of thinking. But yeah, I think overall, just all of it helps prepare you better for situations like that.
Okay, Maria, just a question. We're looking back.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the different things you might have handled with your friend? What's some other things you think you might have done differently? for a get?
Okay. Well, some things I probably would have done differently is I definitely enabled her in the sense of I was trying to prevent some of the consequences of her choices. So the cleaning up after her, like, when the house was a disaster, and I would just go in and I would mop and I would vacuum and I would throw trash away and I would do all these things. And I was like, you know, I would dump her alcohol. Some of these things I think, and I know this, but it's really hard when you love somebody. You need to let them see those consequences. When they wake up in the morning or, at 2 in the afternoon or whenever, they need to see like, wow, I really trashed the house last night. Or, uh, I don't know. I guess that's probably what
No,
I would have done differently. I mean, one of the hardest things I had to do was notify her parents that she was unable to care for her children anymore. Um, that's an awful thing to have to do, you know?
absolutely. I tell you, it's hard. I've not only worked with first responders, but I worked with, everybody. And what I found out in my experience in 23 years of recovery, it's not always a bad thing for somebody to lose their job.
No.
It's not always a bad thing if somebody goes to jail. It's not always a bad thing if somebody gets a divorce or separated. And even though it's sad, it's not always a bad thing if they lose their kids. Because what I found out, all those situations or experiences leads them that, hey, I do got a problem.
Yeah.
I do need help. And then they can focus 100% on recovery instead of worrying about the other things. And I think that's hard to get through to somebody when they get help. I said this before, when I was getting help, I was like, well, how much is this going to cost me? Here I'm buying 8 balls of cocaine. I'm drinking Jack Daniels. I'm getting checks sent to me to these check places to cash, and you got an instant loan. I'm spending all that in the weekend. But when it comes to my recovery or therapy, how much is that going to cost me? I got real responsible in 5 minutes when somebody's asked me to go get help. Have you seen that? Have either one of you guys seen that or experienced that yourself?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I've seen it. Yeah.
I believe, with me, it's hard to do, but you got to love people sometimes from a distance. If I'm too close to a situation, if it's a family member or a friend, I always try to get somebody else to help them. That's what I've learned in my experience. Not only that helps them,
Mhm.
it helps me too. And I got to remember that because I don't have all the answers like I think I do sometimes.
Yeah. Same here. I don't have all the.
So,
Maria, I want to ask you, you've got a lot of stuff going on here with your other jobs, the ER, the fire department, the family, so on and so forth. Tell me, you have a routine of some sort that you do to take care of yourself?
I always try to get, when I'm at home, a good 8 hours of sleep. I take time to exercise. I know this sounds funny, but the class is jazzercise. And we're just jumping around and having a good time to music that I like. And, it's a hard class. It incorporates weights, but I love it. And I love the group of girls that do it. So I do that. I walk. I like to go camping. Like I said, if I have a chance, I take a nap during the day. There's no shame in naps. I think they're awesome.
And
So,
you've got dogs too, which
yeah,
is always a big plus in my category.
yeah. So eat healthy, exercise, and sleep.
And play with the dogs.
Yep, I do play with my dog.
what kind of dogs you have? You might have said it earlier.
No.
I wasn't paying attention. I'm sorry.
I have Catahoulas. They're rescued Catahoulas.
A what?
They're called Catahoula leopard dogs. They're used in the South for hunting. And I have 2 females. They're sisters, and a lot of times those dogs they use the males for hunting, and then they kind of discard the females. And so I have my girls, and they have a lot of energy. So.
That is a cool looking dog.
Our fire department chaplain has a Catahoula. I never knew what they were, and I went over there, and this dog has so much energy. It's on you. It's hyper. I mean, but it's beautiful. It's beautiful, the coloring, and it's just a beautiful dog, and it's very loyal and wants to play all the time.
Yes. Absolutely. They're very snuggly.
Well, I tell you, Marie, there's somebody that's out here listening. It might be a first responder, police officer sitting in his car. It might be a nurse that's listening to it that has a bottle by, her bed, or it might be another first responder, military that is kind of lost, not sure which direction to go. And you got about 2 minutes to talk to them. What are you going to say to them?
For someone that's struggling with addiction, I would just say don't lose hope. Um, the past is the past. Each day is a new opportunity for you to reinvent yourself. I mean, each day is a new day for you to try something different.
Sure. That's good stuff. And somebody, we talk about addiction a lot, but what about the person that don't have a chemical problem? They just think, what about that? How could you get through to somebody like that?
For someone that loves an addict, I would say love them, but love yourself enough to create healthy boundaries and take care of yourself so that you can be the best version of yourself as well. And, for me, like I said, that's exercise and eating healthy and sleeping. So
that's
sleeping.
Good.
I got
we
that.
We want to remind everybody. We also want to remind everybody the Worldwide Peer Support Organization has 3 support Zoom meetings on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays at 8 p.m. Eastern. It's worldwidepeersupport.org, or you can go to our burnoutpodcast.org and you can click on that link and that'll get you there to the Zoom meetings. We also have a 24-hour line you can call that's on that website if you want to go and check that out. You can do that too. If you're out there needing help, we have different treatment centers around the United States we've vetted that we could send you to. Also, if the RIT team will fly you there if you're willing to get help. If you don't have the money or the funds to do that, and the funds are in the Worldwide Peer Support, we'll help you out there. So anybody out there suffering, if you want to talk to one of us, Marie or something, just send us a message on burnoutpodcast.org and we'll get back to you. And we'll help you in any way that we can. Like Maria, we're peer support people. We've been through that ourselves, or we've helped our friends or people that's on the job that's been through something like that. And we always got to remember there's a friends and family that's around that person that's suffering, that's hurting too. And we got to remember, not forget about them. Well, I tell you what, it's like some days in life, we're not always connected. It's not always clear. I always don't know which direction to go sometimes. And I got a beautiful wife that's there to help me, and people like Maria that are friends, and Rhea that are friends that can help me too get through life one day at a time, one moment at a time. But Maria, when you're struggling or you just kind of get lost, is there a quote, a Bible verse, or something that resonates in your heart or mind that you always kind of gets you through that moment, or that's constantly, it's kind of etched in your soul that you always think about? Is there something like that you have with you?
One of my favorite quotes that I have is service to others is the rent you pay for your room here on earth. Muhammad Ali said that, and I just think it's a cool quote and kind of the way I try to live my life.
Say it one more time.
Service to others is the rent you pay for your room here on earth.
And that's from Muhammad Ali.
Yes.
That's cool.
I like that. I applaud you for the work you do there, girl. And I also applaud you more so for taking care of yourself mindfully, because I've been at work you do, and it is a struggle bus. So keep up the good work. Seriously.
Thank you, guys. It was a pleasure to meet you both.
Well, Maria, thank you for coming on here, and I hope we can work together in the future on different things. But Maria, could you tell people where are you at in this country?
I live in Anderson, Indiana, and I work in Fishers, Indiana.
Okay, cool. I just want to give people an idea where you're at, because we're a bunch of first responders all over the United States trying to come together and just carry a message of hope. Anybody there that's hopeless, or anybody that there is lost, there is hope, and you can find hope yourself. Just let us help you. But again, I'd like to thank Maria and Jeff for being on here today, and I'd like to thank our sponsors. You can go to burnoutpodcast.org and you can find out who our sponsors are. And please go to Worldwide Peer Support Tuesdays, Thursdays, or Sundays at 8 p.m. Eastern and jump on our support Zoom meetings that they put on. And that's worldwidepeersupport.org. You can go to our burnout link and get to that. But for now, Go home tonight, shut your phones off, and get some sleep. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Burnout. Burnout is brought to you by the Worldwide Peer Support. You can visit Burnout Podcast at burntoutpodcast.org or visit Worldwide Peer Support at worldwidepeersupport.org. Your hosts for the Burnt Out Podcast are Skip O and Jeff the Old Guy. Produced by Sean P. Neal. A mypodcastmedia production.